Good to go. Jennifer, let me pull up that presentation for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dallas. So good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. We are here to have an updated neighborhood meeting for the proposed annexation and concept plan known as 8513 St. Vrain Avenue. This is an optional follow-up neighborhood meeting that the applicant has asked us to host, just to ensure that the community has the most up-to-date information about where the project is in the process and how it's evolved over time. Next slide. So with me this evening from the city side, we have Josh Sherman from Public Works Natural Resources Engineering. We have Carolyn Michael, who is our traffic engineer, Hannah Chen, who is a civil engineer, Kristen Cody, who is a senior planner and the project manager for this annexation application, and then Dallas Stiles, who is our video and live stream specialist, who keeps us in line. So this is a live stream meeting. We do this for a number of reasons. As far as the live stream format, it allows us to record the meeting easily, for one thing. It also makes it easier for members of the public to tune in versus having to, run and get to another meeting. We found that this format consistently has better, higher turnout than in-person meetings frequently. And also, if you're unable to view the meeting live, you can always watch the recording of it when you have time. So it's a format that works well for everyone, I think. So this evening, I'll be talking about the process. The applicant will give his presentation regarding where he is in the project. We'll talk about next steps. Once we get to the end of that portion, we will open the meeting up for comments and questions. And then you will have contact information for the project manager, and the applicant will be shared at the end of the meeting as well. Next slide. So just as a reminder, this is a little bit more than 4 acres over at the northeast corner of 9th Avenue and Airport Road. It is a county enclave that has not yet been annexed into the city. It is surrounded on most sides by incorporated the municipal city of Longmont. Next slide. So in terms of where we are in the process, there was the annexation referral by City Council in August of 2022. There was a pre-application meeting once the annexation was referred with the Development Review Committee and the applicant in late 22. There was a required neighborhood meeting that was scheduled, I believe, in January of 23. So this project's been going on for a little while. So the application has been under review with comments from the Development Review Committee and working with Jack Bestall. I forgot to introduce Jack Bestall from Bestall Collaborative. He is the applicant for this meeting. So it has undergone some review. There have been comments. There have been revisions to the plan in response to comments from both the DRC and members of the community. So we are doing this is one of a few follow-up neighborhood meetings to keep the community engaged and up to date on what's going on in the process. So once this project has completed the review by the Development Review Committee and annexation agreements have been drafted, there would be public hearings by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. City Council is the ultimate decision-making body for annexations. If the property is annexed, it would then go through preliminary plat, final plat, site plan, and public improvement plans. There are public notices posted and mailed to all property owners within a 1,000-foot radius for all the public hearings for the public hearing before Planning and Zoning Commission, the public hearing before City Council, and then upon submittal of any follow-up applications if the annexation is approved by City Council. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jack Bestall, who's going to talk in a little bit more detail about the project.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad to be here in and discuss with you this evening and get you an update on this. Um, I think Jennifer's presentation gives a good context. Next. As she mentioned, we've had a fair amount of community involvement. We had a walkabout during the last year as economics and so forth slowed our process. But this update is important for us, and it's an opportunity to bring everyone up to date. And basically, the plan is as it was last seen. It's refined, and there's some aspects of it that we want to bring to your attention. Next. This shows the really the adjacency of St. Vrain and Champion Greens, and how Champion Greens subdivision was approved with connections at the north there, at the upper part at Champion Circle and down below at Doral Drive, as well as with the water looping into, planned to loop at some point into the St. Vrain parcel. Next. There's approximately 4.45 acres in St. Vrain planning area after the dedication of some right-of-way and the addition of the Outlot I, which was a part of the plat for Champion Greens. Next. This shows looking west at the circle, at Champion Circle, which does connect or is planned to connect into St. Vrain past the pickup truck. Next. The goals for St. Vrain really from the beginning was to really do a quality development residential project to conform with the Envision Longmont plan, to conform with the development code, and also to conform with residential mixed neighborhood, the RMN neighborhood, which is 6 to 18 to the acre. Next. This shows the Envision Longmont plan and that yellow or gold, I don't know what to call it, color, mustard color is over Champion Greens and St. Vrain, and that's that RMN use, residential use. Next. The concept plan has key elements similar to the last meeting we had. There are similar aspects of it. Single family and attached and detached are the idea to have mixed in this plan. And that's so therefore we have a range of 33 to 44 homes and approximately 7.4 to maybe 9.9 dwelling units per acre, depending on the type of homes that we select and would build here. The attached might be duplex, triplex, could be townhomes, but we see a mix of the single family detached and attached. There's a buffer along the east or the right side, that row of trees that runs up and down north-south. That's required when you have attached residential adjacent detached, and it's on that 26-foot wide outlot that we own that was also a part of the Champion Greens subdivision approval. Also, there's a access to Airport Road up towards the top. There's a road that outlets to the west onto Airport Road. It's a right in, right out, and that ties to Champion Circle. Next. There's a number of concerns that have been expressed by Champion Greens residents over the years here. And I wanted to go back and just summarize those. We've heard them, we've tried to adapt to them and be responsive. One of them was a concern about view. This is at Doral Drive looking west. And this is after trees have been taken down, a lot of trees have been taken down behind the wall there on at St. Vrain. And there's a few gaps that now can be seen. This has been kind of an interesting issue. Some people really want the view, some people want trees to buffer. And so, but that shows how with some forest management, there's a little bit more opening, at least at this point in the development. Next. Another concern has been traffic. The study shows the 2027 estimated traffic based on a growth rate over time that we worked with the city on. St. Vrain increases overall trips by about a third with, let's say 35 units compared to the 90 that are in St. Vrain, excuse me, Champion Greens. The airport road access will carry about a third of the St. Vrain trips. And so that's, and of course, additional trips from St. Vrain, from Champion Greens. Here you can see you can probably make out the Champion Circle. It's a little blurry, and how that connects out to the left, to the west, out to Airport Road, where a median will be extended to the north so that there's no turning left and heading southbound on Airport Road. That's the requirement from the city at this point on Airport Road. Next. Concern has been about flood and being in the floodplain, and I realized that there were concerns in 2013 as well. It's interesting, this was a note that I extracted from the approved Champion Greens subdivision, which said that the property, meaning Champion Greens, is not within the 100-year floodplain. That's at the top there. That's a screenshot from the plat of Champion Greens. And if you look at the mapping on the aerial, the blue or aqua color is the 100-year floodplain, which shows that both St. Vrain and Champion Greens are not in the floodplain. Next. This concern related to drainage, taking now water down to the site. And there's been concern that development here, there'd be more water running east or into Champion Greens. You can see the arrows here. Basically, the drainage will head south, and you can see that arrow, for example, pointing away from Champion Greens up there on the right. And then it'll go into a stormwater or water quality basin, and then it'll be it's likely, and this is conceptual, but it's likely that the outfall of the water quality pond will be to the corner there, the southwest or bottom left. You can see the drain pipe that's put there graphically. A question came up the other day and said, gee, this looks like the detention basin is right up to the lot 1 there on the right. And it does, the area for this facility is that whole area, but the water quality pond would not go to the property line. It'll be well back to the left. This just shows the overall area that would be landscaped and would be designated for the water quality pond, but it won't be immediately abutting that property. Next. Concern also was related to buffers, and I mentioned already that on the right there, that drawing shows that the trees and the buffers, the 26-foot wide strip immediately adjacent Champion Greens, and that's really required by the city, again, between attached and detached. It also, though, I wanted to point out that if you measure where the existing homes are, like for example, the sketch to the left, built that home on lot 3 is approximately 100 feet from a home at St. Vrain, which would be to the left there. So there's quite a bit of distance between building to building distance between St. Vrain and Champion Greens. Next, please. This shows kind of that buffer area, but this is looking south in Champion Greens. And there's a lot of vegetation on the Champion Greens side, but there's no question some of these trees are overhanging the fence, and it may not be as many now as we've been thinning along that and continue to work at it. But that's that kind of the so-called buffer zone actually is occurring on both sides of the fence. This is on the Champion Greens side. Next. Concern was about compatibility, the scale of buildings, what will they look like? It's too early for us to show you really the real architecture. We put in some character studies to the city. But this photograph, I think, shows how there's 2-story buildings in Champion Greens. And also notice the building to building distance here between these homes. Really, but maybe it's, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet. It's a little hard on this angle to see, but much different than what would be between a Champion Greens house and one in St. Vrain. And the RMN does allow attached residential. That's the main difference, but height and setbacks will be the same for both properties under the RMN zone. Next. there's been concern for forest safety. There's a couple aspects of this. Fire is one of them. Winds blowing trees down. We all, both St. Vrain and now we as the owners of St. Vrain, we kind of inherited an unusual problem. And so the start was what the city requires is to do a tree survey. And although we're not in the city at this point, we're part of the annexation process. So we complied with that and working with the city arborist. And you can see these are actually GPS points of all the trees that were on the site that we did about a year ago. And it also indicates which are native trees, what species they are, and what are non-native, and which ones are healthy and not healthy, et cetera. Size of caliper is also a part of the survey. So that's been done, and we ended up finding we had approximately 575 trees on the site. Um, sometimes you think that would be great. At this point, it's not so great. Next. So we've been working on a kind of one step at a time basis to clear some of the trees where we know that they're either non-native or they're going to be in a disturbed area, a development area. And this shows one of those actions recently, or I maybe 2 months ago, actually. Go ahead. Next. This shows some of the results. Now, these would be trees that are either that are native and healthy. They look a little scruffy. They haven't been trimmed up or anything, but we've taken out trees adjacent those, and we're trying to leave. It's kind of a stewardship effort of trying to leave the healthy native trees, and then we'll integrate that into a landscape of the overall buffer and landscape of the overall project. Next. Going back to meetings 1, 3, and 4, these are the plans that were shown during today and then in the past. And I think there's been an evolution, and I'd like to think it's from listening to you and also the staff and the city. On the left side, you can see one of the first plans. This showed homes on both sides of the main street in St. Vrain, and so there would be a row of homes immediately adjacent Champion Greens. It does show the connections at Doral Drive and Champion Circle. I think there was like 58 homes in this plan. And then we evolved to the middle one where the homes were moved to the west side, to the left of Champion Greens, more adjacent Airport Road. The buffer came into existence along Champion Greens on the green and going up and down north-south. And we had a kind of a hammerhead on the north end, a hammerhead type streets turnaround there at this point. And that evolved into the plan to the right. There was another plan in between these, but basically the plan that you're seeing tonight is on the right, which shows a hammerhead still up to the north end for emergency vehicles to turn around, like fire vehicles. And there's a pedestrian connection out to Airport Road sidewalk there. But we also have now the connection to Airport Road and Champion Circle, which can disperse vehicles from Champion Greens through St. Vrain, as well as have the vehicles from St. Vrain also use that as an option. So they're not always going through Champion Greens. Next, I'm getting us confused here a little bit. So basically, our goals were to try to conform with the envisioned Longmont plan and develop livable neighborhoods along major routes, diversify the housing choices away from, so we have more than just single family detached in this area, focus on energy conservation and home design, and look at compact development to achieve better energy transit and walkable, sustainable values. Next, please. So the plan elements, just to refresh, single family attached, detached, it's RMN zoned. Champion Greens has about 90 units, 4.2 DUs per acre on 21.69 acres. St. Vrain is mixed, 33 to 44 units. We won't know exactly what that number is. That's the range, depending on the kind of homes we elect to build, which could be, we might not know that for another year based on the annexation process timing and a final plat type timing. So that's around 7.4 used per acre up to 9.5. Access to Airport Road, a buffered adjacent Champion Greens landscape buffer, and comparable standards, which, Champion Greens was more of an RSF PUD type, but both are really RMN now, and so that's comparable. Next. So it's a work in progress, frankly. We've come a ways. We want to go much further more quickly. At this point, it's difficult to invest on a more rapid basis until we have a sense of certainty on what the plan is. And I look forward to hearing your comments tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jack. So just to recap, the next steps, which I touched on earlier. So with this project, the application is still under review. It's I think getting towards the end of the review process in terms of submittal numbers. The next step, once the Development Review Committee has finalized their review and their concerns have been addressed, would be a public hearing before Planning and Zoning Commission, who make a recommendation to City Council. Prior to the public hearing at Planning and Zoning Commission, there would be notice to the public, both in terms of mailed notices that are postmarked 14 days in advance of the meeting, as well as signs posted on the property. Following the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation hearing, it would then go to City Council. There would be a couple of resolution hearings, and the final hearing would be a public hearing on the ordinance, the final ordinance. Again, there would be notice to the public, mailed notice to everyone within 1,000 feet of the property boundary, and posted notice on the property. If the city council approves this annexation, there would then be a number of subsequent application types and associated review cycles, and there would be public notice at each of those stages as well. Next slide. I think I already touched on this. So subsequent application types would be platting, site planning, public improvement plans. The site plan and public improvement plans are really where the real detailed planning gets done, as far as what the elevations, what the buildings will look like, what the landscaping will be. That's really where the details happen, and we're still quite a ways off from that. The first thing that needs to happen is the city council public hearing on the annexation. Next slide. All right, so we are at the public comment period. So we are going to take a 5-minute break in order for people to call in and get in queue. We have some ground rules for public comment. So 3 minutes per speaker. We follow city council rules. We ask that you state your name and where you live. We ask that you keep the questions and comments related to the current proposal. Be additive, not repetitive. If other people have made the points that you wanted to make, you're more than welcome to speak, but maybe reference that your comment, your concern related to X has been made. And then we also ask that people refrain from any personal attacks, which shouldn't have to be said. But then we'll go to the next slide. All right, Dallas, I will let you give the details on this.
Sure thing. So as Jennifer said, we're about to take a 5-minute break. During this time, if you have a comment or question, you can call the number up here, 1-888-788-0099. When prompted, enter the meeting ID 885-9982-5368. You will join the meeting, and after the 5-minute break, we will take our questions and comments. Thanks all. We'll see you in 5. We have about 45 seconds left on our 5 minute timer. If you are in our participant window right now, if you have called in, please make sure to mute your live stream and make sure that you're listening to me through your device that you're calling in on. We are going to take callers and questions in the next 30 seconds. Thanks. All right, that is 5 minutes. We do have some callers in the queue. Callers, I am going to be addressing you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. So make sure if you hear the last 3 digits of your phone number, that means I'm calling on you to unmute. We are going to start with caller 494. Caller 494, would you please hit *6 to unmute? Hello.
Hello.
Do you mind muting your live stream? We can hear it in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, just a second.
Caller 494, would you please hit *6 to unmute?
Okay.
Great. And could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Jeff Woodward. The address is 1057 Champion Circle.
Thank you, Jeff. Got 3 minutes.
All right. My primary question to start with, a couple of things Mr. Besto addressed. One is I've got a couple.
Thank you, Jeff. Got 3 minutes.
If you'd give me just a second here, because I'm. What primary question?
Hey Jeff, your
Okay.
live stream is still on. If you could please mute it, we're getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I just did that. So, so my question is really what is the advantage to the city of Longmont to annex this property, other than getting a little bit of extra tax base from the housing? This property sits directly across from an open space in Boulder County, and sits 700 feet from St. Vrain. And though the maps currently show the area not to be in a flood hazard zone, I know that there was a diversion project that is supposed to put more water into the St. Vrain in the event of a flood. I'm fairly certain that the riverbed is probably higher than when the study was done back in the 2013-2014 area, which would simply mean that the floodwaters from the St. Vrain will exceed the A-zone listed on the current flood maps. So I have a real concern about that in how the buildings will be constructed, and then also what will happen, for the water diversion. That's really all I've got at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. We will, we will have a mass response at the end. We do have a bunch of callers and want to make sure that everybody gets their questions and comments asked. We're going to switch to our next caller. Caller with the last 3 digits 174. Caller 174. Please hit *6 to unmute. Caller with the last 3 digits of your phone number 174. Please hit *6 to unmute. All right, we will come back to 174. We're going to go to caller 177. Caller with the last three digits 177. Please hit *6 to unmute. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. This is William Malling. I'm at the 1068 Champion Circle, right on the corner there behind the fireplace. Not the fireplace, the fire plug out there in the street. So at Doral and Champion is where I'm at. Couple of questions. I'm not familiar with the detention facility idea that's at the south end of the property. Is that a building, or is that just all underground? Does it make any noise, or is that just a drainage system that goes into the St. Vrain? That's one question. Concerns about construction traffic going through our properties, down our streets. Obviously don't want a lot of that. Concern about who maintains the greenway that's on the east side of the new property going in. And is this property an HOA, or I don't think it's going to be connected to our HOA, but is it an HOA in and of itself? And that's it. That's what I got.
Great. Thank you, William. We'll go to our next caller. Caller with the last three digits 566. Caller 566. Please hit *6 to unmute. Caller with the last three digits of your phone number 566. Please hit *6 to unmute. Hello.
Hello, my name is Rick Stewart. I live at 1211 Twin Peaks Circle. We noticed a major change to this plat is access to Airport Road, and we're concerned about the pedestrian and bicycle conflicts that'll be created by that, both on the sidewalk, which is an official part of the bikeway, and then the dedicated bike lane, which is on Airport Road. It appears that there'll be significant pedestrian and bicycle conflicts there. We know that bike lane and the sidewalk, which is part of the bike path, is very heavily used. And that's one of the aspects, I think, of the city traffic program is to eliminate those conflicts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Our next caller is caller with the last three digits 970. Caller 970. Please hit *6 to unmute. Caller with the last three digits 970. If you're there, please hit *6 to unmute. All right, we're going to keep going. Folks, if you are listening in through the live stream, there is a delay, so please make sure you are listening in through your device that you're calling in on. That's how you'll be able to hear me and respond quicker. We're going to go to our next caller, 101. Caller with the last three digits of your phone number, 101. Please hit *6 to unmute.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, this is Mary Hendricks at 1064 Champion Green.
Go for it, Mary.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have one primary concern. There's always been a question about Champion Greens being zoned as multifamily. I'm wondering if the city has ever been able to come up with a conclusion on that. They indicate that it's been envisioned Longmont, et cetera, but there's never been given notice in that 1,000 feet, 12 days advance, or any of that. So I'm wondering if we've ever come up with any final conclusion on that.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
Not today. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Mary. We are going to go to our next caller. Caller with the last three digits 644. Caller with the last three digits of your phone number 644. Please hit *6 to unmute. Caller with the last three digits of your phone number 644. If you would please hit *6 to unmute.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yes. Robert Woods, 966 Champion Circle. So our community was severely impacted by the 2013 Front Range.
Robert, I think we lost you halfway through there.
Okay. Nope, sorry. So we were impacted by the 2013 Front Range flood and remain vulnerable to drainage and underwater problems. The proposed development sits higher on a higher ground and increases the risk of runoff into Champion Greens to worsen our existing conditions. The current plan places a detention pond directly against our fence line. I know that was touched on. I just would like more detail on that. At the southwest corner of the site, this could create an unacceptable flooding risk for homes that already experience high groundwater and rely on sub pumps. There's also concern about storm water overflow towards and across Doral Street and potential impacts to Wood Court and surrounding neighbors. I'm asking the city to evaluate cumulative stormwater impacts, including soil saturation near foundations, rising groundwater levels, whether the detention basin is designed for a 100-year storm event, not just meeting minimum code requirements. Several requests have already been made to require groundwater protection measures similar to that has already been required in other subdivisions, nearby subdivisions. Additional questions and concerns, where will the pond discharge flow and what tributaries or ditches are involved, including whether city ditches such as a Zweck, Turner are part of the system. Does the design consider perch aquifers in this area? Will overall surface water be directed to neighborhood streets? Are you aware of adding water to our private detention pond may require HOA approval? We also ask for commitment to best practices in stormwater management, including greenways or open areas to promote groundwater infiltration, outline designs that does not increase runoff to existing neighborhoods, clear explanation of how these measures meet best practice standards. We would like more detail on the size, location, and final design of the detention retention pond. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Our next caller with the last three digits 942. Caller 942, if you'd hit *6 to unmute. Hello.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Nelson. I live at 3732 Doral Drive. I've got a couple questions. One, in Jack's presentation, he mentioned something called a DU. I'm hoping he can define that. I assume that's some kind of a density unit, but I don't know what it means. My other question is, I was under the impression from the most recent reports that I've heard about the project that there would actually be two ingress, egress locations in the new development. Well, I understand that one would be egress only, but I thought there was going to be one on Ninth Street that would also help alleviate some of the traffic. And I'm wondering if that still couldn't be incorporated into a detention pond design. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. All right, next caller. The last three digits of your phone number are 017. Caller 017. Would you please hit *6 to unmute?
Hi,
Hello.
this is Saju Verghese calling from 1197 Twin Peaks Circle. So my main concern is about the residents accessing the train tracks. I know there's already some people that walk on the train tracks periodically, but especially with the large additional number of housing units, plus the access to Airport Road, I do have concerns about additional residents kind of using that as a walkway. So is there any actions being taken to deter that or to discourage that kind of behavior? Thank you.
Thanks, Siju. We'll go to our next caller. Caller with the last three digits 174. Caller 174. If you're there, please hit *6 to unmute. Hello.
*6.
Hello?
*6.
Hi there. We can hear
It
you. Do
wasn't from
you mind stating your name and address for the record?
71774.
Yes, 174.
Thank you. There's an audio voice that speaks over you if you didn't know that. I'm Tom Smith, 1049 Champion Circle. Appreciate everybody's time tonight. I would offer up to Mr. Bestall that after this, I've handled some of the collection of info for the subdivision, that we collect again and maybe meet face to face. That's an offer. And at some time you tell us what we could do to help become mutually benefited and satisfied with on both sides of the fence. So would appreciate that. My points deal with water drainage. And if you have not seen it from Mr. Bestall, I have a statement from the Associate Director of the State Geological Survey that does a nice job explaining perch aquifers. Be glad to send that to you, Jack. Didn't hear how many stories high things might be, and that may pertain also. At one time, I was familiar with an open space, county open space requirement that if you built across a right-of-way at an open space, it had different limits. Sorry, I'm not current on that. Would appreciate a little information if that's going to be a concern. With the traffic issues, snow piling, where it goes, since we pile and have piled at the end of Doral and around the circle, what there might be made available on that side for the new development, where you can plot your snow at, because that adds again to the runoff and the traffic. Another question on traffic relates to guest parking. If we'll get to see what that might be, we have restrictions in our HOA about parking already, and people are concerned about if we become the guest parking lot for next door. The people have covered most everything I wanted to find out about. The question on the discharge, is it going into the Zweck-Turner ditch, and where does it ultimately go? Because there is another ditch open on that side that the city has. And is that going to be any part of it? Clarify that at some time. I'd like to see in and out both directions on Airport. And the question about is the prior estimate of what units might sell for
30 seconds.
Still at the same dollar figure of 900,000 to $1 million. And
I think that pretty much wraps it up, or it has been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Dallas, did you get the name? I couldn't hear the name.
That was Tom. And we will go to our last caller. Our last caller is 970. Caller with the last three digits, 970. If you would hit *6 to unmute. Hello.
Hi. This is Nancy Umbride. I'm at 1045 Champion Circle. My biggest concern still is the traffic and the people that don't belong in our neighborhood coming through our neighborhood with their cars and potentially coming through our neighborhood, walking into the park that they don't pay for. I don't understand when there is an exit and entrance on 9th right now that's been there for years and years, why that cannot be used still. And an excuse might be made that says, well, that's where the retention pond is. My answer to that is move the retention pond. I don't see why that neighborhood cannot stay self-contained, have an exit out to Airport, have an exit out to 9th. And, you know, bike traffic deals with car traffic all the time. So I just don't understand why that has been so adamant that they have to have access to our neighborhood. Our neighborhood has people on crutches, on walkers, and people speeding through there to get to work in the morning and to get home at night is not going to be good, not to mention their access to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And with that, we have no more callers. I am going to pass it over to Jennifer and Jack if you guys would like to respond to those questions and comments.
Sure. I'm going to start off with the city comments, and Jack, I'll turn it over to you in a moment. So there's a question about what DU means. That means dwelling units. So we talk in terms of dwelling units per acre, in terms of residential density. The first caller asked what the benefit to the city of this annexation would be. Ultimately, this property is within the Longmont planning area. It is considered an enclave, an unincorporated enclave, effectively. We have an intergovernmental agreement, a long-standing intergovernmental agreement with Boulder County that unincorporated areas within our Longmont planning area should be annexed into the city as property owners are interested in doing so. That has some benefits in terms of administration, of, you know, a variety of services and such. But ultimately, it's good planning practice to not have holes of unincorporated land area within municipal boundaries and within the planning area. So that is the answer to that one. So residential mixed neighborhood. So there's a question about, there's a misconception that this is a multifamily designation. Mixed neighborhood means just that, a range of densities. So single family homes are absolutely allowed in mixed neighborhood. Typically smaller houses, smaller size lots. Typical areas that would be mixed neighborhood might be parts of you know, some of the areas closer to Old Town, you know, with the older neighborhoods that might have smaller lots, but it is a single, you can do single family. You can also do attached single family, so duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, but it allows for that range of density. Just because it says mixed neighborhood doesn't mean it's multifamily. And then finally, there was a question about notice for the citywide rezoning when the area was rezoned. I believe I've been over this, gone through this before in a few different venues. So there is something called a legislative rezoning process. When a large area, there's a certain threshold of area in our code. When a large area, such as the entire city, is rezoned, There is a process in the code or provision in the code that we do not have to do individual notices to all 40,000 plus properties within the city of Longmont, because it is, it's a huge burden. It's a huge expense. Notice is done in different ways. So I was not here for this rezoning process, but my understanding is there were many city council meetings, many planning and zoning committee meetings, there were many neighborhood meetings. There were quite a few outreach efforts, and there was a very comprehensive process for public notification. But when there is a citywide process like this, individual notifications are not required. And this rezoning was done as after Envision Longmont, and it was done to implement Envision Longmont, and it applied to the entire city at one time. So in that case, it's just not practical to notify individual property owners. Kristen, if you'd like to touch base on the railroad question, because I know you got information from them.
Certainly, Jennifer, thank you. So in the course of reviews, there's multiple opportunities that we send out notice to individuals and notice to entities. When we sent out the notice to application, we also sent out a referral notice, and that did go to the railroad. They did respond requesting fencing on the north side of this proposed development, which is accommodated for in the concept plan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll also add that a lot of the questions really asked about specifics that we just aren't there in the process yet. Annexation has a concept plan with it. It's a high-level plan that doesn't get into the details of exactly what everything is going to look like and exactly where everything is going to be. Those will come, those specifics typically are in subsequent processes. I'm going to let Josh or Hannah talk about the drainage questions and the St. Vrain flooding question. And then I'll turn it over to Caroline for the traffic, and then I'll turn it over to Jack to close.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to put on a previous hat that I wore at the city, which was as project manager for the city's Resilient St. Vrain project, post 2013 flood. Try to share a couple of things that I'm aware of related to a couple of the comments or questions that I heard. The St. Vrain Creek 100-year floodplain was remapped following the 2013 flood. The information that was used to remap the floodplain was post-flood, so after flood topography as flown by the state through LiDAR. So it was that information that was used as the base information for contours, for topography, for the remodeling and remapping effort of the 100-year floodplain on St. Vrain Creek. And I heard something about maybe diversion of water. So I don't know if this was what was being referenced to, but I'll touch on immediately west of Airport Road and upstream along the railroad tracks at Pella Crossing, where Pella Ponds is in unincorporated Boulder County. The city coordinated with the property owner and with Boulder County to make some improvements post-flood again to create what I would call a diversion channel to take any water that may be out of bank on the north side of St. Vrain Creek, flowing into Pella Crossing, south, back immediately to St. Vrain Creek, and put it into the main stem of the channel, as opposed to what occurred during the 2013 event, which may or may not have been more than a 100-year event, where water got in, came out of bank, flowed into Pella Crossing, and then followed the railroad tracks really into the west side of the community, impacting certainly Champion Greens and other neighborhoods that were inundated with floodwaters that understandably were not mapped in the floodplain. So, if anybody has any follow-up questions on that, you can reach me outside of this venue to talk a little bit more if you'd like. Related to on-site stormwater, I think there were some questions about the detention. I can let Jack maybe address a couple of those. I thought he covered a couple of them in the presentation, but again, as Jennifer mentioned, this is annexation. We're not at the level of detail for detailed hard engineering just yet. At this stage, we do require the applicant, acknowledge what the city standards are, that they're going to meet those city standards in terms of stormwater detention and water quality. And then, in this case, present what may be a feasible solution to discharge or outfall that stormwater from their project. So in this case, what's currently being proposed is an outfall from the project site via the pond and a pipe into the city's municipal storm sewer that runs along Airport Road. That there's storm sewer in Airport Road that runs south and discharges into St. Vrain Creek. That's one alternative. This site actually has a pipe that discharges near its southeast corner, which does discharge into the Zweck and Turner ditch, which I heard mentioned. That is a potential option. If that option is pursued later when the engineering is more advanced, they will need to coordinate with the ditch company for approval of stormwater discharge into that facility. And then the third option, which I think I heard, is there is on the north side of 9th Avenue, adjacent to Champion Greens, there is a drainage swale, picks up drainage off the public right-of-way, conveys that east, and may convey it back into the detention pond for Champion Greens, and then further downstream. After that, this subject property is not going to be releasing their detention pond release into that swale, so that will not be allowed. I'm taking a quick look here. I'll pause just to see what questions I have covered and what maybe else I can try to answer. I'll let Caroline weigh in as well and add to what I might say here about the proposed access onto Airport Road. And I did want to mention, and I can cover a little bit about the access that was asked about with regard to 9th Avenue. So just a little bit of background here. Both 9th Avenue and Airport Road are what's designated as arterial streets. That's just a roadway classification. That means that they really are there to move traffic through the city. It kind of sort of goes arterial and then collector and then a local street. So Doral and Champion Circle would be examples of local streets. So you have sort of one lane in each direction, attached sidewalk. Whereas on an arterial street, you may have more than one lane in each direction, a center turn lane, detached sidewalks, those types of facilities. So 9th Avenue and Airport Road are both arterial streets. On arterial streets, the City of Longmont Code has spacing requirements for access. So for example, Wood Court and Iron Court access onto 9th Avenue meet those spacing requirements. The existing county parcel, obviously had an existing residential access onto 9th Avenue that was maintained while it was in that use. This proposal for annexation is a change of use, and so a new access would not meet that spacing. So that's why an access on the 9th Avenue is not and cannot be considered directly from the subject property. In the same regard, the proposed access onto Airport Road would meet spacing requirements for an access onto an arterial. As it was noted in the presentation, it's proposed to have a restricted movement, which would be right in, right out only, not a full movement. And then there was a question about the bikeway. Certainly any, vehicular crossing of the bikeways presents a potential conflict. This local street access onto Airport Road would be a stop controlled intersection and would be required to provide and meet the site distance requirements for that intersection. So hopefully that maybe addresses a little bit of that question. I'm going to pause and Jennifer, you can let me know if there's any questions we didn't cover or somebody else can jump in. Thank you.
Yeah, Caroline's jumping in.
Perfect.
No, I would just add to what Josh said, regarding access to arterials. It's also a general practice to try to limit and consolidate access onto arterials where possible. So the existing access on 9th Avenue is there right now, but this would constitute a redevelopment of the property. It would no longer meet spacing standards, and it would be kind of intensifying something that's kind of non-conforming right now. Also, it's the annexation plan has not provided any siding and striping yet. It's just like kind of early in the process for that. But the access on Airport Road, they would have to maintain some kind of like bike lane striping on Airport, and it would have a stop sign control, and it's right in, right out. So like, I mean, inevitably any new public street on Airport over there is going to cause like a disruption where there's not one now, because it's a straight shot for pedestrians or cyclists. But yeah, at least a right in, right out, theoretically, it's more predictable for cyclists and pedestrians to predict where cars are coming from.
Thanks, Caroline. I think we covered the big concerns from the engineering side that I have written down. One thing I will note that I did not mention on the next steps is timing. A lot of the questions tonight have really focused on project specifics that we just don't know yet. So realistically, if annexation is approved by City Council, there would be effectively two major application processes, development review application processes. The preliminary plat process, which would require a public hearing by Planning and Zoning Commission, and then the final plat, site development plan, and public improvement plans. Realistically, we're probably, I'm not sure what the timing is for for this project to go to public hearings, but realistically, we're probably looking at about 2 years of development development applications under review. So we're still the details still are in development, and there's still quite a bit of time for those to be worked out. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jack to address some of the project specific questions and anything that we may have missed.
Thanks, Jennifer. A lot you've covered. Just picking up, I think, on caller 2, William, the detention facility, what is it? It's basically a landscaped area that will capture water and will filtrate anything out of the water before it goes into the storm system. And our civil engineer working with the city on a preliminary basis, what I outlined in the presentation, we think is workable in terms of the outfall going out the southwest corner into the storm sewer that's in Airport Road, and the drainage in St. Vrain would not go east into St. Vrain. I think I mentioned already, but it was brought up again, the pond or that area that would capture water, sometimes it'll be dry completely. That area would not be touching or impacting the residence lot to the east there. Question about construction traffic. I think we probably can get access onto the site without going through Champion Greens, and that would be our goal as well. We're not interested in disrupting Champion Greens at all. Who maintains the buffer? We would, meaning we and then our HOA would. We would be responsible for that. Yes, to answer the question, we would have an HOA, and it probably would have different goals and interests than the Champion Greens, so they would be separate. The question about, I think going to Rick now, maybe to add on, and maybe Josh probably may know this more, but in terms of the conflict with a bikeway along Airport Road and where the Champion Circle would come out, my understanding is there's a design for a grade separated crossing of Airport Road, which would be down at St. Vrain to the south. And that would also allow bikes to cross over to the west side of Airport Road and then go north. And that was worked out with, I believe, with his Vex. And I saw the preliminary designs for that when we dedicated property to the open space along St. Vrain. So that, that I don't know if that's, I think that's still in play, but I saw that like maybe 8 or 9 months ago, Josh.
Yeah, Jack, I'm not as familiar with the St. Vrain Greenway Master Plan, which has some phases
Yeah.
that would ultimately extend the St. Vrain Greenway Trail west of Airport, really all the way to Niwot and eventually all the way to Lyons is what's in the master plan.
Yeah.
I'm not intimately familiar with what the sort of route is.
Yeah. I think that's worth
sort of
looking at
at this
because,
location.
yeah, I'm sorry. I saw that in a meeting with Parks, who is managing that. And I think that's the plan. So ultimately there wouldn't be the route going up Airport Road. There would, it would be going up the west side and there'd be a grade separated safe crossing. So something to look into there. I'm not an expert on that, but that's what I learned about. Couple other items just to touch on would be, let's see, Tom's comments. I think we've handled drainage, or we think we have. Perch aquifer, that's a science in itself. I would just suggest it takes clay lens to do that. I did a lot of that in the mountains and had to deal with it on wells. We've got a gravel base here. Water level, based on our initial geotech, is like 7 feet. At the water table, it goes up and down, but it gets as high perhaps as 7 feet, depending on the season. So it doesn't act like perch, but I'm not a geotech. That's just a comment. Structures they could be 35 feet or meet whatever the RMN standard is. Snow removal locations would be carefully put together on our property and would obviously need to drain as a part of our drainage system. Yes, we would have guest parking. We are not inclined, Josh mentioned drain discharge into his VEC ditch. That is a possibility. It's always a possibility, but we're not inclined to do that because it starts to commingle water and there's water rights issues and so forth that can come up. So I think those are the ones that were left. Jennifer.
Yeah, I think we've addressed it all. With that, Dallas, could you put the slide with the contact information up?
Sure thing.
So I would like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I do hope we've answered your questions. If you have further questions still, here's the contact information for Kristen Cody, who is the project manager for this annexation, as well as for Jack Bestall, who is the applicant of this for this project as well. That said, I do appreciate everyone's input, and hopefully we've gotten some good information that answers all of your questions out. So with that, I'd like to thank all of the team from the city, Josh, Caroline, Kristen, and Dallas, and Hannah, as well as Jack Bestall for being here this evening. And I would like to thank everyone in the community for tuning in and being engaged with what is going on in your city. So thank you.
Thanks all. Have a good